Okay, so I'm going to talk about breaking negative cycles. And the reason why I think that's important, you know, this morning, today, I wanted to make it a priority for me to set the tone to start off the day in a positive way. Um, that for me was reading, and reading is super. It's important for me not only because of like the knowledge that I'm getting, but it's something that I feel good about myself afterwards, if that makes sense. Um, you know, when I'm reading with intent, I'm putting that extra emphasis on the comprehension part, trying to understand what the author is trying to get out there, and reflecting. And lastly, trying to incorporate, because most of the time it's like I do read. Most of the time, right now, I'm reading a lot of self improvement type stuff. So, it's like, all right, boom. You know what I'm saying? I need to. The whole purpose of this book or this chapter or whatever I'm reading, the intent of it is to at least how I'm understanding it is to give the reader another perspective, another way of seeing things, and another option. Boom, another option. Um, so, because we have options, we don't have to continue the same cycles, the same routines, and especially if we know that we're not liking the end results, right? Now it's going to be a little uncomfortable at first. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel foreign because it's a shock thing, especially since our body is so used to whatever routine we're in. It's like, dang, bro, it's like, this feels weird, you know what I'm saying? But once you get past that initial feeling and work it in and you just get in that moment and just be really present, that's an important thing too, is like being really present, blocking out or not letting anything else in, not anything from the previous day, not thinking about the future, not thinking about, all right, what do I get, like what the end goal is, just being present, which is hard to do sometimes, like right now. Since this isn't like scripted or anything like that, and I've re-recorded different ideas, like I can't even count how many times. I realize that when I'm present and I allow my thoughts to flow, and it's just mainly about getting out there and making it make sense, if that makes sense. So, boom, I started off today differently than I started off yesterday with reading. And then I went to the basketball court, which I did go play ball the other day, but it was like towards the evening and it was extremely hot. Even though it was extremely hot this morning, towards the end of it, well, the afternoon, I guess, but still, it wasn't as windy. And, you know, going in today, I didn't really have any expectations. I was just out there because I wanted to be out there. And it's something that I get enjoyment out of, regardless of if the ball's going in or it's ricocheting or it's airballing. In the moment, I feel free. I feel alive. And, I recognize that not every day I'm going to have the opportunity to do that. So I'm making the most of the time that I have now, to, instead of filling that void with what I was filling it in with prior, I'm filling it in with something that not only benefits me on the mental aspect because this is something I want to do, but also physically with the cardio and everything. Boom. All right. And then on the end of it, it's like I get to reflect. I love reflecting, because it's like, all right, you know what I'm saying? I did this action. How did this impact me? Right? I feel like a lot of the times before, when I was living how I was living before, there was no reflection. It was just me sucked into whatever I was sucked into. And, there are some points where I'm just like, man, I don't really feel great, or this isn't what I want to be doing, but I would still do it anyways because I was so sucked in and so, I don't know, it was a cycle. And yeah, and it's like, all right, boom, all right, this isn't what I want to do anymore. And there's been some dramatic changes that's happened that's allowed me to, do what I'm doing right now. But even when, my situation eventually changes, I still want to have this foundation in place to where I can, come back to, if that makes sense. Um, Breaking that past cycle and bringing in something else, something that is authentic to me, and it doesn't at the when I'm reflecting, when I have the after effect or whatever I'm doing, whether that be ball or reading or wherever else, what I'm saying, I don't feel negative, if that makes sense. It aligns with what makes sense for me right now. And that's what I'm trying to do, is be in alignment. But the only way I'm able to do that is by taking that time, the free time that I do have, to to really like feel and take in life, and really experience myself, and to dig deep, you know, and even when I'm not digging deep, to just exist and kind of feel how that feels, just being able to exist. Because I feel like, you know, in the past where I would work so much, literally, 7 days straight, 2 or 3 jobs, and I didn't really have moments, or when I no, I didn't. Well, I didn't use those moments to just exist when I had my free time. It was mostly just filling in, uh, you know, filling in the void with um, traditional stuff, like whether it be what seems like the norm right now, whether that be like watching Netflix, um, you know, doom scrolling, things that nature, because it was easy, and it gave me that quick dopamine hit, and it's pretty addictive. And now I'm breaking out of that. I'm watching stuff with intention, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not, spending time to just for the entertainment purposes of like watching stuff or reading whatever. But I'm sectioning it off. Like, I'm being very, very like, all right, we can, you know, enjoy this, but let's not make my whole life or my whole, around this particular whatever I'm watching or whatever I'm doing, if that makes sense. I want to be less of a consumer of other people's creations, and I want to be able to create not only mainly for myself, because this is something that I've realized that, ever since I was young, I've wanted to do, but I've just never, well, I won't say never, but I would just, get really into it and then just like fall off and fall back into, previous cycles. You know what I'm saying? So, all that to say, you know, I'm trying, and I think we should be trying to be intentional about not only how we spend our time, but like mentally, like the things that we're allowing to come into our brain, really being smart about what we're taking in, and realizing that there's positive and negative effects. There are smart people out there, creating stuff to grab our attention, because, attention is money and power, right? And not only that, but it's like it takes away from our individualism, in my opinion. It's like, it's hard to be expressive and to be in the moment when that moment's being um, filled in with whatever agenda or whatever is trying to be pushed. Not to necessarily say everything's an agenda, but there's a lot of stuff out there that is, whether it's just to push out a product, which in turn requires us to work and work for something else to bring in that whatever they feel like the work that we're doing is worth to buy said product, or you know how you know they want us to necessarily think about our reality in general. Because if you can control how people think and manipulate people, and you can, that's a thing. So I am trying to break out of that cycle and trying to take back my life and trying to take back my mind and everything. It's something that is going to be a process, and there's going to be some frustrating times, but I know at the end of it all, it's something that I'm going to feel happy and proud of, because at the end of the day, this is something that deep down that I know that I need and want for myself. And I feel like that's what everybody wants, really. It just gets bogged down by, so many other aspects. But yeah, to conclude, take the time to really reflect on the things that you do, because that's what I'm trying to do. And, you know, adjust, pivot, and really think about, hey, is this something that you want to be doing? Is this something that I want to be doing? Or is this just something to fill the time? And, am I comfortable with, you know, taking that next step, or what's holding me back, if that makes sense? So, yeah, have an amazing day.